Welcome to the Fairy Whispering podcast with me, your host, Claire Casey. And today I'm really thrilled to have my guest, Alex, the FairyFindr. And Alex is a multimedia artist and blogger. And he's got a wonderful journey, personal journey to share with us, and his connection with fairies and how that interweaves with his personal journey. Welcome, Alex. I'd like to start with your journey, because fairies come very much into your journey, personal
I think I'll
journey.
start with my experience that made me realize it was fairies in the first place, which was
Mm-hmm.
my butterfly experience, or
Sure,
I guess
yeah,
it was a
start with
moth.
that. Okay, yeah,
So
great.
it was an imperial moth, which are these giant, beautiful yellow moths that are in Michigan, where I'm from,
Mm-hmm.
Metro Detroit area. And this was in Belleville when it happened. I was walking my dog and I was on a little weight loss journey because I am transgender and I was trying to lose some weight before my top surgery, which was like basically I had to be under 200 pounds to get the surgery. So I had to like lose a little bit of weight. And I just wanted to be healthier overall for my healing process in general. So I was walking my dog, and out of nowhere, I find this giant imperial moth on the ground, upside down on its back. So it was stuck, and I knew it needed help. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's it? And I go up and look close, and I realize it's still alive and moving and like trying
Mm-hmm.
to tell me that it needed help. So I go over and find a stick on the side of the road, and I take the stick and I flip it over onto the top of my phone, and I take it over to the side of the road and I set them on a log. And then I go on my merry way and I keep walking. And then out
Mm.
of nowhere, all these butterflies and moths come out of nowhere. I don't even know where they came from, but behind and in front of me. And then they floated and flitted around me and danced for me. And as if
Wow.
they were thanking me for saving their friend. And it was
Oh,
kind
wow.
of it was a lot like the colors of the wind in Pocahontas. Do you
Oh,
remember that?
yeah, I love that song. Yeah.
Where the spirit in the trees and the energy of everything is moving together and dancing for her. It was a lot like that. Felt
Yeah.
magical.
That sounds amazing.
So that's the moment I realized fairies were even in my life. But since then I've had so many memories from childhood of different weird things that I'm like, oh my gosh, was that a fairy? Oh my gosh, were those gnomes?
Shall we start with that? Those childhood experiences, Alex?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I listen to a lot of fairy podcasts and fairy stories all over, wherever I can hear them. I listen to them.
Yeah.
Your podcast being one of them, which is a lovely, resource for people all over the world. Thank you so much for having this
Oh,
platform for people, Claire.
thank you.
Um, but I was listening to a story once. Um, this is gonna take us back to my childhood. It's how I remembered the memory in the first place. So I was listening to a story where this guy had been had these little beings come into his room at night when I think he was an adult or a teenager or something, but I was really young when it happened to me. So he had them come into his room at night and like do these medical experiments on him and stuff. And then that triggered a memory of me in my childhood. And I always thought these were like just like maybe lucid dreams or something.
Mm.
Because I had a lot of lucid dreams as a kid. But now I'm realizing that was not because there was these three beings. They came in pairs of three, and they were very short, like their heads barely came up above the edge of my bed, which was
Mm.
very low down to the ground. It wasn't quite laying on the ground, but there wasn't much space under the bed. It was very low to the ground because I was still young. I was maybe 5 or 6, and I had reoccurring instances of these beings coming back. and they would come in through my hallway. So I'm assuming there's a portal in the hallway or something because it's a liminal space. you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
Perfect place for a portal. And they would come through my door because I'd always have it cracked and the light would be on in the hallway because I was scared of the dark. Because I could see things and feel things and experience things that others couldn't. And my parents just thought I was scared of the dark and had nightmares and all that. But I was actually experiencing these beings, and they would come back and they would kind of huddle around me, and telepathically I could tell that they were like speaking to each other but not really saying anything out loud, just kind of trying to convey to me the um, feeling of peace, so I wasn't scared of them. So I was very scared now. Pull my
Mm-hmm.
covers, right to right here, and I'd be like I couldn't. I felt like I couldn't move. It was kind of like a sleep paralysis, but not because I could still turn my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt paralyzed. Maybe even if it wasn't them paralyzing me, it was just fear. But anyway, they would come and they would crowd around me in a like semicircle arc. And then I would just black out after
Mm-hmm.
that. And I knew that they looked like doctors because they would have like these old 50s style medical like paper hats with the red cross on it because I think they wanted to convey the we're here to help type feeling to a 5-year old.
Yeah.
All I know at that point, because I had a lot of medical trauma as a young kid, I knew like, oh, I'm supposed to trust nurses and doctors. So they knew that, and that's how they came to me so that I wouldn't be afraid, but I was still afraid. so,
Mm-hmm.
but I could tell that they were trying to convey the sense of peace. Please don't be afraid of us. We're here to help, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what they were doing to me, but in the story that triggered this memory for me, he ended up saying that they were activating fairy DNA, and
Ah.
that's what his fairy guide told him.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if maybe that's what they were doing with me. I don't know. I don't know
Did
if
you?
I have. I'm not saying I have fairy DNA. I don't know if I do or not, but it's a very interesting experience that I had very young in some of my earliest memories.
And did you have any physical signs of their visit, Alex? Like some people have
I
unexplained
was
marks
so
on their
young, I
bodies.
wouldn't even
Yeah.
know to look for that. I didn't even know
No.
about aliens or like, I didn't know about any of that when I was that young because I grew up in a very Christian household. Everything was Jesus, angels, and demons. That's it. There's nothing else that exists. So in my mind, I'm just like, oh, I'm just an imaginative kid. Like they're telling me like there's nothing to
Mm,
worry about. This is just dream.
mm,
But now as an adult, knowing and having all these other experiences with so many different I've had paranormal experiences my whole life, so I can't say that they don't exist. They've happened.
mm, mm,
It happened to me all the time. And I think some of
yeah.
us are just more in tune or aware, hyper aware. I know because I have ADHD, I'm more hyper aware of my surroundings at all times,
Hmm.
you know?
Mm.
So maybe that plays into it, why I can see them or why they appear to me.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that about, that awareness of how your diverse, do you call it diversity, I suppose, allows you to have this additional insight into the other realms.
Mentioned
Um,
my grandma was also
mm,
sensitive. She didn't talk about it much because it was taboo in the Christian world and she was very religious. But after her death, my dad told me that she would have visions, like she had visions of 9/11 before it happened and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like she would have precognitive visions and she would have, and she actually came to me after she died in a light form. The day she died, like probably the moment, maybe even moments after she died, she came to me
Mm,
in a dream in light form. So I know that she like this stuff like runs in the family. It's not something that's new to me or that I'm alone with. and she's on
mm,
the other side, probably helping me cultivate them,
mm,
even though she didn't get a chance to cultivate them either in her life because she was scared. But
mm.
and when she came to me, she said, "I understand now," and I think that was just an overall, I understand everything now.
Yes,
And I
as you were,
understand that
yeah.
you're trans, and I understand that you're different, and I understand that you're special, like all those things. And I love you just the way you are, because she didn't get a chance
Oh,
to tell me that in her life.
oh, that's so beautiful that you had that
It was,
message from her.
and that was like even before it was like in the beginning stages of me coming out as trans. Like it was very early. So like
Mm.
she wanted to make sure that I knew that she loved me for who I was, even in the
And
afterworld.
when did that? I want to come back to that the experience actually you were just talking about. Because you had a regression, didn't you,
I did.
with Paul Goddard
Oh Goddard.
and Kate Ray, and I watched
Mm-hmm.
that and it was very moving. So I'll
Thank
put the
you.
link up for this for that
Yes, that was for the
regression
initial
system
early 5 year
session
old experience with the little beings. And
and
I
then
just want
more.
to preface that I was
Mm,
very anxious about that, but as
mm,
soon as we did it, it just felt like this is right. And I
yeah,
felt really calm, and like I've never been regressed before because I had a lot of trauma in my childhood that I didn't want to bring back up, and I've always been a little leery of regression just because I don't want to bring any memories up that I
sure.
regress on purpose because my
Mm.
for my own health and safety of
Sure,
my brain.
yeah, yeah. And
So that I was really scared, but they were like super cool and made me feel calm, and um he was just reassuring me that any hypnosis is self hypnosis and this is your choice. Like you have
mm,
the power here, not me.
mm,
And I had my girlfriend there with me to help me feel safe.
great. And have you had any more insight since that, Alex? Or
Not on that specific
yeah.
memory, but in an overall, like, realizing different things over my life were probably fairy or paranormal related when most of us just brush
Yeah.
things off because we don't want to open that door, or we're scared, or
Mm.
we just are like, oh, that's a coincidence. But
Mm.
I think the more you pay attention and the more you're not necessarily looking for it, but open to it, it'll show up
Yeah,
a lot
definitely.
more and more. And at this point, I'm seeing fairies, and I know it sounds crazy to people who aren't in the fairy world, but I'm seeing fairies on a weekly basis. They're like
Mm.
very heavily interacting in my life, my art, my connections, everything.
Yes, it's very much. Do you think it sounds like that is becoming more and more intense for you? Well, not intense, but gathering momentum,
Yes,
maybe?
very much. Ever since I realized that I had fairies in my life, I've been not using them, but utilizing their energy and adding to it with my own energy. And we're kind of co creating this beautiful world around us in this shitty, world that we're in. And I'm in the US right now. We're in a lot of political warfare, not
Mm.
warfare, but political strife. There's a lot of anger, a lot of negativity, a lot of bad things going on. And the fairies want me to know that they're on my side, and they don't
Mm.
want me to give up. I have a lot of mental health issues, and I've been suicidal and had mental stuff in the past, but they want me to know that they're here with me and that they support me and that they want me to be on my art journey, even though it's hard to grind every day and work for yourself and be
Yes.
an artist. It's hard. It's very hard.
Mm.
And they
Hmm.
want me to know that I have their support. So I
Mm.
think that's why they're showing themselves so much to me. So I don't give up, and I'm not like, oh, you're just crazy and mentally ill and you deserve to be in a psych ward.
Mm.
It's hard not to think that when you already know you have mental health issues. To me, as butterflies, most
Yeah.
and dragonflies second most, and sylphs. I mean, maybe
Mm.
sylphs even second most, and then dragonflies third most. That's a great story. So I used to be a welder
Excuse me.
because I'm a
Yeah.
metal artist and I like to build things out of junk. Because I grew up and I'm a third, fourth generational hoarder of things.
Mm.
I keep all the things, and I'm a junk artist, so that's fun. But so I became a welder, so I could do that. Anyway, I was working in a weld shop, not doing the type of art I want to do, but that's okay. Um, and it was just one of those hard days. It was a very hard place to be because it's not queer friendly or trans friendly, and people were always messing with me. So I was having a really hard time, and this was during my transition for sure. And I just want to say during my transition,
Yeah.
yeah, during my transition, fairies were very intensely involved in my life on a almost daily basis. And I think they showed up to me as butterflies because butterflies kind of symbolize transition and transformation and becoming one thing from something else, which is very similar to what trans people do.
Mm-hmm.
And this butterfly just comes out of nowhere and like lands on some metal parts on the shelf next to me as I'm walking to the bathroom. And I've never once ever in the 10 years I was there seen a butterfly in that shop. Never once. I've seen birds that have gotten spiders, centipedes, stuff like that, but never once a butterfly because that would absolutely destroy a butterfly's wings to come into a weld shop. You know,
Mm.
heat, sparks, light, like all that stuff would really mess them up. So that butterfly came in there for me,
Wow.
and it just came out of nowhere and sat, and I knew it was a sign from the fairies.
And did it stay with you for a while, or did
Well,
it
I went
just
to the bathroom and
land?
then it was gone when I
It's
came back,
gone.
so I'm not sure.
Yeah. That's beautiful, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
and so it was a time when you were struggling,
very much.
and
It knew I needed a sign.
yeah. So, did anything change after that for you? Did you leave that job?
Yes, I'm not sure how much I want to say, and I'm not going to say the name of the place because I don't want to have any legal action taken against me. But
Sure, yeah, no, we don't want
I
that.
opened up a lot of investigations against some people that were doing some very bad things there, and then I
Yeah.
quit.
Hmm.
Yeah, after I gave them all I could give them. It
Great.
wasn't
Good
a
for
safe
you.
space for me there anymore.
Hmm.
Especially it was like at the beginning of my transition, like I couldn't hide it anymore.
Yeah,
My voice
sure.
was getting deeper. I was growing a mustache. Like you can't hide that anymore. And I was asking
Mm.
if I could use the private bathrooms, and then it became this whole thing. It wasn't a safe space for me anymore.
Yeah, so that can't
It never
imagine.
truly was, but
Yeah, that
it was a job for the time. Paid my bills.
was that the first, was it the moth experience was your first experience, was it? And then the butterfly in the weld shop happened after that?
After that,
Yeah, so you'd already
I
had that.
started seeing butterflies and moths everywhere. They would fly in front of me on the expressway going 70 miles an hour. Like, I also think I have a theory that the expressway is another liminal space portal space type thing because
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of weird things on the highways and roads.
Oh, please share
And
some
they
of
always
that.
say you meet the devil at the crossroads, right?
Yeah,
Maybe that's what they mean. Like, there's portals at crossroads, there's portals on roads.
I think so. And well, some roads follow very old energy lines as well,
That too.
or ancient
I was
ancient
actually just
tracks.
thinking about that earlier. There's this road in Michigan called Telegraph, and it goes from like where I am in like the east of Detroit area, like Metro Detroit area, and then it goes all the way down to Ohio, and it probably goes all
Mm,
the way up to the UP too. And I was wondering how old is that because it's called Telegraph Road. Like, were they doing telegraphs, running telegraphs down that road in
yeah.
1800s? Like, I wanted to look. I'm going to look up the history of that road. I was just thinking about that earlier today. Probably a
Yeah.
very interesting energy
Mm.
line there.
Yeah, because one of my guests I had a while ago, she was talking about a very old road that the native people used to use. And
I got a kitty
so
here.
some of these roads go back a long time, don't they? So who knows
Yes.
what's happened in
Yeah,
some of these
Michigan was
places.
one of the earlier states that we colonized and settled in.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously already um, had people living here, the natives, but
Yeah.
we were a huge source of lumber back in the 1800s in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We had a bunch of old growth, ancient old growth white pine trees,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the lumber industry loved that, so they came here and chopped them all down.
Ah.
That's
Mm.
what Michigan's known for, our lumber. In
Mm.
the auto industry for Ford plant and all that, Cadillac. Actually, Cadillac was one of the first
Yeah.
founders of Detroit, and he's rumored to have a experience with the name Rouge, which is a red imp of Detroit, and he's
Oh,
been
right.
here since the 1800s.
Mm.
And he was told by a fortune teller before he came to America, you must appease Le Nain Rouge. Like, you cannot disrespect it, you cannot, or you will fail at everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so he comes here, and him and his wife, they meet Le Nain Rouge late at night on the street,
Yeah.
and Cadillac decides to strike him with his cane instead of give him respect. He says, "Get out of here, you devil imp!" And he strikes him with
Really?
his cane. And after that, he went bankrupt. He lost everything, and his businesses all failed. I don't know how Cadillac's doing these days, but his business when he was alive did not do well. And the
Was
Cadillac is actually named after him. That was his company.
Wow. So was this creature, was it like another name for a Sasquatch? Or is it
Nope, it's
completely
an imp,
different?
like a little goblinish imp
Oh,
guy,
an
a little
imp.
guy. Yes,
Oh, wow.
and he is a native of Detroit. He's been here since before us.
That's
I haven't
amazing.
looked into if the tribes have any stories of him. I'm actually going to look into that. I'll let you know. I'll update you.
Mm,
But I'm not sure if any of the tribes that were here have stories of him. I'm sure they do.
that's
But
so
he's been here since at
interesting.
least 1800s. And
Wow.
we have a march every year to march him out of Detroit. But there's lots of people like me that, like, I haven't been to it yet, but there's lots of protesters that are like, leave the name alone. He's been here since before us. We don't need to march him out. Like, we're on
What's
his
that?
side. Because he's
Yeah.
a harbinger of doom, but honestly, he just comes and warns you of troubles to come. You
Yeah.
know, he's not he's not bringing the doom himself. He's just warning
Mm,
you of the doom.
mm,
And
mm.
and so he's been given a bad rap.
Oh, wow. Ah,
So
he is
Brett Manning
amazing.
hosts February, and yesterday's was Classic Imp. So I took my own
Yeah.
little
Oh
own
yeah,
little spin on
Brett's
Classic Imp.
Fabry. Yeah, yeah, I know. Oh wow, he's so cool. I love
Thank
him.
you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with him.
Oh no. I think he's a good guy, though. I think
Hmm.
that he is a fae that is misunderstood for
As
sure.
most, yeah, well, as a lot of fairies are, aren't they?
I mean, half of the
Mm.
world still thinks they're evil, so yeah, if not more than
Yeah,
half.
yeah,
I think that fairies have evil fairies, of course, just like humans
mm,
have evil humans. Like, there's good and evil in all of us, of every species, and it's just it depends on our choices and how we decide to live our life, on
yeah,
which one we're going to nurture. We have it. We have the capability of both, all of us.
definitely.
No matter what,
Yeah,
no matter what humanoid creature you are.
yeah.
You're not incessantly inherently evil because you're a reptilian, like everyone likes
Mm,
to say.
mm.
Yeah.
What's your cat called,
This one's
Alex?
Butters.
Ah, Mine's, oh, she was on my bed. I did have my cat on my bed behind me, but she's she's
The
gone now.
cats love to play with the fairies. They will like um they'll show up as orbs in the house and like play kind of like a light laser tag with them.
Oh, wow. Do you
Yeah,
see
no, like
the orbs?
I've caught them doing it on cameras when I used to have cameras in the house.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I can hear something in the background. Is there some music behind you?
No,
Oh, it must be my kids playing some music. You also have a connection to music and
very
channeling
much.
the fairies through your music. So I'd love to hear about some of your channeled music experiences.
So
Correct me
music is
about that.
very important to me. Both of my parents are singers. I'm actually a karaoke host.
That's great.
I do that every weekend. I'm doing karaoke. That's fun, and I get to meet a lot of cool people. Actually, last week one of my karaoke fam regulars came out and gave me a miniature unicorn because I always have a bunch of
Mm,
miniatures on display
yeah.
um, when
Good.
I'm doing karaoke. And
Hmm.
bring different ones each time, so it's a little fun, like magical landscape for them. And someone brought me a unicorn this week, so it was fun.
Oh, that's really
But
nice.
I kind of dabble in a lot of different instruments. I'm always more of a play by ear type of guy. Um, I get overwhelmed with like lessons. I did take drum lessons as a kid, like drum set. Um, and I played the flute, like the
Hmm.
God Pan. Like he's actually
Mm.
trying to. God Pan has been telling me I need to get back into my flute playing. He's been bugging me about that. um, but I played the flute for many years in middle school and high school, and I was also in choir. So music has always been a huge part of me and my connection to the creative energy source.
Mm.
And I think that the fairies have always been with me and kind of inspiring me with magical like ideas and like
Hmm.
things that I feel like where did that come from? You know, it feels very urgent
Yeah.
and like I need to get it done right now. um, and not all my art comes to me like that, but the
Mm.
ones that do feel very say connected.
Mm.
Um, and so anyway, I this was about 10 years ago. I've got two stories for you of channeling. I
Hmm.
can't think of any others that I can say for sure are channeling, but these two I can say for sure. So I'll start with the first one. I was at a friend's party, and this was shortly after high school, so maybe I was like 18, 19. And there was a piano there, and I always like to play around on the piano, just, mess around, make little tunes, make little ditties, and just play around. And I've never had any like formal training on the piano, on either of the instruments that I'm going to mention tonight that I was playing. So that's very pertinent because it sounded amazing, right? Like I have no idea where
Yeah.
it came from or who was playing through me,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
um, I just sit down at this piano and I'm just like, playing like a master,
Mm.
right? And I have no idea where this comes from because I have no formal training. And then this person runs up to me from the other room and
Mm.
they're just like, "Do you know what you're playing?" And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"What? No, I have no idea what I'm playing. I don't know how to play. Like, I'm just messing around."
Mm.
And they're
Hmm.
just like, "You're playing this song from like this obscure video game that I've never heard of or never played." And they're just like,
Mm.
"Are you serious? Like, you're playing this song and it's like super famous." I'm like, "No, I've never heard it and I've never played that game. I don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about."
bizarre.
And they're just like, "This
Yeah.
is crazy. You pulled it from the ether and you just started
Wow.
playing it. Like you have that's crazy. That's amazing." And I was just like, "Whoa." And I was
Mm.
just like, we were both just like stunned. Like, what? That's crazy. So
Amazing.
that's the first story. And that was pretty fucking cool. And then a couple of years later, I'm at a friend's house, a friend that I used to jam with a lot,
Hmm.
and he's the one that's on the track that I'm going to share with you called As It Flows. And
Hmm.
he is on the regular acoustic guitar, and he's just following me, and I'm on the ukulele. And I, again, have no formal training in ukulele. I just play by ear and by what little like YouTube tutorials I've watched or whatever, what few tutorials I've watched. And we're just sitting down, we're jamming, and he and I have like a very good musical, like, I don't know, we just fit musically together very well.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and anytime we would jam, we would just record the whole jam session because you never knew when the magic was going to happen. And he was that type of guy that knew that, so we would just record the whole session, and then after we record the session, he would go back in and add like the strings and like the orchestra type sounds. Um, but the initial channeling was me on the ukulele and him on the guitar, and he was just following me. So he was just kind of playing chords that went along with what I was playing, and I was just like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I have no idea where this is coming from, right? Because I don't know how to play the ukulele. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
it just comes out of nowhere, and then we're just like, we look at each other and we're like, did that just happen? Like, that was it's just like, and because it was a jam, like we don't know where it's going, we don't know where it starts, we don't know where it
Mm.
stops, and it
Mm.
just it once you listen to it, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe this wasn't like planned out, because it has such a precise flow from beginning to middle to like bridge to end
Uh,
of like how the flow is, and it just feels very much like it was like rehearsed and practiced. And like if you asked me to play this today, I could never do it. I could never replay these things on its own.
that's,
I haven't played music in a while,
yeah.
but I can feel the fairies trying to encourage me to get back to it, especially the god Pan. He really wants me to get back to the flute playing.
Do you think that I'm just thinking about your state of mind when you were playing that music, um, and
I
how you
was,
felt afterwards. Mm.
it's hard to say because I had been smoking cannabis at the time, so I don't know.
Mm.
I felt high. I
So
feel like
very
always
relaxed.
it always flows through me when I'm on cannabis for some reason. I don't know. It's easier for them to connect with me when I'm on that level. Maybe I'm less
Yeah.
cluttered and less like my brain can slow down more. Maybe because
Yeah.
I'm ADHD and my brain's always like. But when I smoke weed, I feel like I can like chill and
Mm.
relax and think
Hmm.
and not and like have complete thought, not like a bunch of scattered incomplete thoughts.
Yeah. So is it like feeling centered, like feeling
Definitely, it's like a state of flow that I
flow?
tap
Yeah.
into.
That flow state is a really powerful place to be, isn't it?
I
When,
know Bruce Lee talks about the flow state with
yeah,
his work and all the energy work that all these Asian kung fu guys do,
yeah. I mean, there's like
and
these
the
eight,
work with chi.
yeah, and then there's
Huge stuff.
the CDs, which are these ancient practices that I think it's Buddhist monks used to be able to get into these states of complete kind of transcendental state, didn't they? Where they could do amazing things, like some of them could walk through walls or
Wow.
float,
Levitate.
levitate. Yeah,
There's
so
these
it's
monks that can raise their body temperature and sit on in the middle of a snowy mountain, and there's like a circle of melted ground around them because they have raised their temperature and their energy so much that
mm,
they are able to sit out there in their robes and have a a melted circle around them. It's crazy, but not
yeah,
crazy, but like awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome, crazy, yeah. I'd love to play that music. in this episode when I release
Yeah,
it?
for
That'd
sure.
be great.
I'd
Yeah.
love that. I want the world to hear because I have a feeling it's a gnome anthem. I don't know
Ah.
why I have that feeling. I think the gnomes have been like, we gave this song to you so that you could show it to the world. Because it's been sitting like not being heard by many people for almost a decade, more than a decade now, and
Hmm.
it's time.
Definitely it is. I mean, we all need some enchantment and upliftment, don't we? How does nature help you, Alex?
Part One of the biggest parts of my life, besides art and music, is nature. Um, like I said, I grew up with like a lot of trauma in my childhood and stuff, so I spent a lot of time in nature to recoup. And there was this pine tree, a blue spruce pine tree, gorgeous. I still have a
Mm,
connection with this pine tree. It's in my parents' backyard, and I don't know why, but I just felt super close to that tree. Well, I
mm,
know now. I know not why now because obviously it had like the god Pan and fairies connected to that tree, and they were there to support me in the times where I felt like I had no one and nothing. And
mm,
I was very young and confused about God and what I learned about God in the
mm,
church, the Christian church. Was a lot. It made me fear anything other than God. So I wasn't really. I didn't know I was having those experiences young, but now looking back, I'm like, wow, that connection to that tree was more than just a connection to that tree. I would sit at the
yeah,
top of it. It was sawed off at the top. Someone lopped off the top for some reason.
mm-hmm,
Um, so it was sawed off, and it had this like big area where I could sit on the stump. And I was
mm,
like 7 years old. My mom would be like begging me and crying for me to come down, but I'd be at the top of the tree and she couldn't get me down. I'd stay up there for hours.
yeah. Because why? What were you getting from being up that tree?
It made me feel safe. No one could hurt me up there
Sorry.
about anything, about who was abusing me or anything or what was going on. But it was a hard time and
Mm,
I felt alone. And that tree was there for me and whoever
mm.
was in that tree.
Do you have other trees that you
I
connect
do.
with now? Yeah.
I do. The big cottonwood tree in my backyard,
Mm-hmm.
um, that my gnomes live in.
Oh,
You're actually the one that spotted the gnome in the first
yeah.
place that lived in the tree.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, that's the gnome there. And I'm
Crazy.
like, wait, what? Where? Oh my
Yeah. He
God.
was just peering out, wasn't he, from the
He was.
roots?
He has a little sly smile too. I could tell he has a little sense of humor. He's like,
Yeah.
hey.
I love
But
it.
he's one of my favorite. That little
Mm,
guy. I haven't named him or anything. He hasn't told me his name.
mm,
But the cottonwood tree in my backyard, this is the house that I own now,
mm-hmm.
is my grandparents' house. So I've been in this
Uh,
house my whole life. And I
cool.
guarantee that those gnomes have been interacting with me my whole life. And maybe even they're the gnomes that came to me in my parents' house. They might be the same ones.
It might be. Yeah.
They might be.
I mean,
Especially since I've been in and around this house my whole life. The energies that are here have been, they told me they've been here for hundreds of years on this property in that tree.
um,
Yeah, the 42 seems to go along with the fairies too. I don't, at least for me, they want me to see the number 42 for some reason. It's
mm.
been constantly bombarding me for like 5 or 6 years now,
Oh,
the
wow.
number. And it just seems like the more I've been paying attention, the more they've been showing me synchronicities. And it always ends up being 42 or
Mm.
1111 or 1234. I get so many synchronicities every day. It just blows my mind. It still blows my mind every day.
And what does 42 mean to you? Has it got some personal significance or?
I think whenever I see it, I'm supposed to pay attention to whatever I'm listening to or whatever I'm doing or whoever I'm with. It's important. And it just feels like I'm on the right path or something like that. It feels
Yeah.
like it's an affirmation from them that I'm on the right path with the right people, doing the right thing, listening to the right stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's the number eight. And that's
Yeah.
come up since I was a child. Number eight, or spiders. If I don't see the number eight, I'll see a spider.
Number 7 and 42 for me. And seven's been my whole life because I was born on the 7th and I was 7 pounds and 7 ounces. Seven was always my favorite number. And also, 7
Ah,
and 42 are divisible by each other. 42 is divisible
y-
by 7. So,
yes. Yeah, it's incredible how these numbers kind of follow us, isn't it, through our lives.
very
Yeah.
interesting. Have a lot
Symbols.
more to do with our reality than people really. I mean, Nikola Tesla knew that.
Yeah.
Lots of ancients knew that, know that.
Sorry, Alex, I keep interrupting because of the time delay.
I keep interrupting you. I'm the ADHD one that's going off on tangents. I'm gonna pull a Forest Fay card for us.
Oh, wow, thank you.
This is what they want us to know right now.
And
We'll do the top
yeah,
one. Spiny
yeah.
sister, take pride in yourself,
Ah, that's great.
which is a
Oh, I
huge
like her.
good affirmation for me as a trans person right now in America. Things
Yeah.
are rough. So taking pride in myself and not hiding who I am and all
Mm,
that. That's really like I've been struggling with whether to stay closeted more or be out and proud. And I
mm,
think this is my answer.
yeah. I mean, that's all we can do, isn't it? Be true to ourselves, whatever we believe. Took me a long time to say to people that I believed in fairies and or
Me
that I've
too.
had fairy experiences.
I even had a hard time telling a friend yesterday that I was going to be having an
Mm,
interview on a fairy podcast. I was like, yeah, my
yeah.
paranormal experiences with fairies. Please don't
It's
judge
so
me.
great. Yeah, it's so lovely to have you on though, Alex. I wanted to talk with you for such a long time and
You've been such
really
a lovely
appreciate.
friend and ally in the community and ally
Oh,
to the queer community. And you're just a really
yeah.
wonderful person. It's lovely to
Oh,
talk to you live, not through, Messenger.
I know, I know. It's
But I know you're a busy lady and you can't talk to everyone that wants to talk to you all the time.
no, I wish I do. I've got so many friends in America, and I do wish sometimes we were a lot closer so I could just sort of drive over
We just gotta
and see everyone.
you gotta learn our teleportation skills. You gotta,
Yeah, I know. I
the
need to
fairies
learn.
gotta give us some insider insider knowledge here.
Do you know, I think that whilst this wonderful world of media and connection, brings us all together, we also need that distance from it as well to be able to connect with the fairies, don't we? So it's like this
Absolutely.
double-edged thing.
During COVID
Yeah.
shutdowns was when I was going through my transition and when I was
Mm,
having all these experiences. And I think they were out full force during that time,
mm,
especially with the people that were going outside.
yeah.
Because I know I got really connected with my fairy gardens during that time, and I saw this was during another experience that happened in that same house in Belleville.
Hmm.
I saw a bunch of little white lights dancing in my fairy garden.
Oh, wow.
It was
Yeah.
a
So
very magical experience.
where were they? Sorry, I missed where they were. Where were they
They were
dancing?
dancing in the fairy garden, in my fairy garden,
That's
because that's where I
wonderful.
started making the fairy gardens. Was at that house.
And did you see them? Was it in the daytime you saw these lights, or did
No,
they
it was
come
at
out at
night.
night? At night.
It was beautiful. I didn't
Ah,
want to feel like I was intruding on it, so I didn't watch for long. But you
mm,
know, it was beautiful, and I feel like they were thanking me and wanted me to see them enjoying the fairy garden.
it's
You know how some people
yeah.
do like offerings to the fairies? I feel like my
Mm,
offering to the fairies is my fairy, and that's how I
mm.
connect with them, and that's how I give them offerings because I put little stones and coins and like little trinkets and stuff. out there, and
Mm.
I'll send you a bunch of pictures for the
Yeah,
blog to
I'd love
show.
to. I'll put those up. Yes, definitely. Be great to show people those.
Yes.
Uh,
One more story. There's too many to tell you all of them, but there's one more story I think I want to tell you.
yeah,
So
please
this
do.
last
Yeah.
summer or fall maybe, um, I had the idea to make, and I want to start selling these on my website as well. I'm going to make on the go fairy garden toolboxes.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're gonna have all the
Be
stuff
great.
and all the little tools and little figures that you need to
Mm.
keep in your car. And so whenever you see a little place that's perfect for a fairy garden, you stop, you take out the toolbox and you make it. And I call them pop up fairy gardens.
Oh,
So
that's so
I
cool.
started doing that, and I did one at this local park at Heritage Park in Taylor. And it's a beautiful park with all these old historic buildings from Taylor, Michigan,
Mm.
that have been moved to this park. But it's a place full of history, and it's a place full of a bunch of native trees, and like they really do a good job here. So it's obviously full of fairies too because they love nature. And I found this one big beautiful tree with a giant fairy door already, like there in the
Mm-hmm.
um, hollowed out area of the tree, and it was perfect for a fairy house. So I went and I got my little toolbox from the trunk, and I went over there and I built a little fairy garden and took a bunch of pictures and wrote about it on my blog. And as I took pictures, you can see little. I took screenshots from the video I took. You can see
Mm-hmm.
little lights flitting around inside
Oh,
the darkness
wow.
of the tree. So like you can tell
Yeah.
that there was fairies already living in that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, I'm sitting against the tree on the other side of the tree, and I'm just sitting there enjoying the scenery and drinking some water. And then out of
Mm.
nowhere, a sylph fairy comes floating by, and it kisses my
Oh,
knee, pushes off my knee, floats over to the left, and lands on the grass next to me and disappears.
oh,
And
wow.
that was a fairy telling me thank you for building them a little fairy garden.
Oh, that's lovely. What did the sylph, what did that look like to you
So
when,
sylphs always appear to me as they look like dandelion seeds, and they come in
mm,
all shapes. Well, not all
mm,
shapes, but all sizes. They all come in a cylindrical shape, but they look like dandelion seeds. And I see them all year round, even in the winter. So that's how I know they're
mm,
fairies, and not just like any old
mm,
dandelion seeds. Because there ain't no dandelions right now in the dead of winter in Michigan. And I just
yeah.
saw one last week, and it was huge. This thing was like this big,
Uh-huh.
and it was a big fluff ball, and it just floats from left to right in front of me while I'm sitting at a stoplight, and it sits and it lands on the ground in the middle of, like, on the road, which is obviously a
Mm,
liminal space. It was a
mm-hmm.
crossroads. So
That's amazing.
very
Well,
interesting.
yeah, when I first moved into this house, this is a rented house I live in, it's about 14, no, sorry, how many years ago? 11 years ago, 2014. Just like within the first couple of days, it was in May, and this whole cloud of dandelion seeds flew into the garden. It was beautiful. It
That's
was in like
amazing.
it was all lit up by the sunshine, and I just knew that was a welcome from the fairies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Another one that sticks out to me is when I had a sylph and a butterfly flying together
Mm, mm,
on a
amazing.
street. As I drive around, I'm a delivery driver. That's like my main thing. I do personal shopping for people for like DoorDash, Instacart, and um,
Mm,
Uber Eats. And so I'm out and about a lot, and I get to meet all sorts of beings. It's really cool. And I
mm,
come across a lot of houses with garden gnomes that I get to enjoy. And a lot of those houses all have experiences at. So I know that
yeah.
there's fairies around protecting these people too. That they're all over Metro Detroit, like they're not just out in nature, they're everywhere.
Mm,
They show you they are with people who they feel like will appreciate or benefit from them being around. And it doesn't matter where you're at. That's a
Mm,
huge misconception in the fairy community, that they're only in nature. You can only connect to them in nature. That's not
yeah.
true.
No.
It's just not. Not in my experience anyway.
No, because they can follow you home as well. I mean, I've experienced that where they've come from places that I visited. Um,
And they follow you back because they're like, oh, she seems like a cool
yeah,
energy to be around. Let's hang out with Claire. She'll talk
yeah.
to us. We'll be heard. As you
Oh yeah.
say, to hear a
They could
fairy
be
whisper, you must listen closely.
yeah. They could be tricksy though.
Luckily, I haven't had any negative experiences with them so far, so hopefully they don't
Mm,
lead me into the fairy realm and kidnap me for 15 years.
yeah. No. I
But
no.
I think they know that we have too much work to do on this side.
Yeah, they do. And I think from my experience, I haven't experienced anything really bad. Um, or difficult or but I think a lot of the things that I've experienced are attention seeking. So it's a way of saying we're still here.
Hmm.
Um, like I've heard knocking, I've heard taps on my letterbox, I've doorbell ringing and no one's there. That sort of thing that reminds
That
me.
reminds me of one more story. I'm sorry, I know
Okay,
I already said
sure.
that.
No, carry on. Love to hear it.
So I used to have a foster son that
Mm,
was really abusive to our animals, and so we had cameras around the house to try and like make
mm,
sure keep him in line. But there was this one time he was torturing one of our cats and trying to suffocate it,
mm,
and I hear a
mm.
whisper outside of my right ear that says,
Excellent.
"Check the cameras," and
Ah,
it whispered it in outside of my right ear. And I
mm,
believe now that that was a fairy. And at that exact moment, he was strangling our cat, and I was able to,
oh,
yell and startle him out of, you know, like he
mm,
heard someone yell downstairs. So, oh, they must have seen me on the
mm,
camera. I better
mm,
stop. So, yeah, that was a very intense night. Um, I I heard a voice audibly, and I know now that that was fairies because we had a lot of orb experiences in that house.
okay. Yeah.
So I know they always show up to me as orbs or
Mm-hmm.
for butterflies or dragonflies. And this one time, a dragonfly fairy looked at me and tilted its head as I said, "Are you a fairy?" And it tilted its head at me. I'm like, "What?" I've never seen a
What?
dragonfly tilt its head.
No way.
Never.
Oh my gosh.
It was, and
I've
then
never seen a dragonfly
My
do that.
friend Bray was
Yeah.
with me, and I was telling him about the fairies. It was around the gnome tree. It was sitting on a lily
Mm,
around the cottonwood tree out back that the gnomes live in. And I was telling him about the fairies and gnomes that lived in the tree, and telling
mm,
him about the fairies that are around, and and he saw this thing too, and he saw it tilt its head, and it was rainbow colored.
mm.
This dragonfly had a rainbow
Oh,
body, all the colors.
that's
You know how dragonflies are
amazing.
usually all one or
Yeah.
two colors? This was
Yeah, they
a
usually.
rainbow colored dragonfly, which I've
So
never seen.
no, I've only seen them with the iridescent wings, but I've never seen like a
The
rainbow colored
body part.
body.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
very intense. And then he tilted his head at me. So yeah, like they are very, very much involved in my life, in my art, in my
Yeah.
blog, in the people that I'm interviewing on my blog, and like I feel like they're really just helping me manifest all the things that I want and dream of, and um, they give me a lot of ideas. Like they're the ones that gave me the name FairyFindr for my blog. So I want to create it into an app one day. I want to make it into an app where I can where people can find local fairy gardens, and it's kind of like
Mm.
Pokemon Go but for fairies. And you get to find and meet different fairies and gnomes around your area. So I kind of want to do this. So the blog is kind of like the precursor to that. whenever I
Mm.
find the right people to help me build that app.
So if people want
No one
to,
steal that idea now.
if people want to connect with you, Alex, where can they hang out with you or see what you do? Yeah,
fairyfinder.net.
wonderful. Great. And
I'm
I'll
on
put
all the socials too, but you can find them on my website.
brilliant. I'll put all those in the notes for this episode anyway.
It just the energy of more than one person together creating
Mm,
something together for a greater good. It's always more powerful if there's more people.
it is. And yeah, that's what I love about this podcast and the people that I meet through it and that I stay in touch with. And, I'll be talking to someone like yourself and I think, oh, yeah, so and so said that. That'd be a good person for so and so to speak to. It's a
Absolutely.
great way to bring people together.
I
So,
love the red glasses and top and it matches your background and your logo too.
sorry, my glasses.
Your glasses and your top all match your background with the
Yeah,
red. It all looks very
yeah.
cohesive.
I've gone, I just made this decision that I was going to go with red. Somebody said red would be a good color for you because yeah, I didn't really know which way to go. And I thought it's just a really, especially for where I am in my life now, sort of going through this sort of going into my crone stage of life. It's like, yeah, bring in the red, this powerful color. And it's
Red is
also
a
the
very
rose.
powerful color.
Yeah.
It's always been my favorite color ever since I was very, very young.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's
Ah,
interesting that you
yeah,
decided to wear all red today. Very
yeah.
interesting.
Red and the roses. Roses I feel very aligned with, and rose fairies.
Well,
Yeah.
fairies are love their thorn plants, so that makes sense.
Mm,
They love to
yeah,
live in thorny plants as protection.
they do. Yeah. Thorny plants. And that goes back to that card you shared, isn't it?
I
With
have a
the,
lot of roses in my backyard. The
yeah,
fairies love them.
yes, they do.
My
Yeah.
grandpa, I was very lucky for him to plant a whole yard, front and back, full of plants that he planted, and I get to enjoy for the rest of my life because
Oh, that's
they're what are they called when they come back every year? Perennials.
yeah. And
They're
perennials.
perennial.
Yeah, perennials. Yeah.
So
Talking, I was going to share a fairy oracle card reading for you. And these are really simple
sure.
cards. It's from the Oracle of the Wilder Ones. I think you'd like these. They're just beautifully painted.
Ooh, I love it already.
Yeah, and the artist is Sharon McLeod, and she's going to be a guest in a couple of weeks'
Oh,
time.
that's exciting.
Yeah, she's based in Australia.
Congrats.
Yeah, so I picked this one, which is difficult to show. Can't really see it on here. I'll have to photograph it and put it up separately. But
Ooh,
I'll send it to you after we finish recording.
is that a sphinx type being?
It's a harp. So it's exciting news, satisfying projects, rewarding possibilities await me. That's a
I
good
love
one,
that.
isn't it? And like within the harp, there's a little castle that's in the middle of a moat. And there's a beautiful flower garden around the edge of the moat.
A
So it's
harp.
like
That's awesome. Does it have a sphinx on it though?
yeah, it's a harp. It's like a golden harp.
I've been
With,
seeing a lot of sphinxes with the one leg. What are those called?
oh, I've forgotten what those are called. They are a type of creature that
They
kind
are
of
the one leg that comes out the bottom. I've been seeing a lot of them, and I actually just came across a bunch of them yesterday
oh,
on some
really?
flower pots, on some vintage flower pots behind a funeral home.
Oh, that's strange. Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
In this part of the world, there's a one-legged, like a one-legged fairy. creature like that called the hinky punk.
What? I haven't heard of that one.
But in sort of Renaissance and medieval art, these sounds like the sort of thing you're describing. Those beings appear
Very
on
much.
decorative things, don't they?
Speaking of medieval art, it's probably my favorite type of art.
You
That's
have a
beautiful.
connection with gardens as well. So
I
shall
have a
we?
connection with gardens and
Yeah.
castles, so
Oh, castles. Go
yeah.
on. What's your
Ever since I was
castle?
young, I've had a very deep connection to medieval times. I'm assuming I have one or several medieval lifetimes that I lived, I'm sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I've always been obsessed with dragons and unicorns and like castles and medieval times, anything medieval. That was my whole life growing up in my imagination. And one of my favorite projects that we did in fifth grade, we all made castles, like little castle dioramas. And
Yeah.
my theme was weaponry. So I had this whole like weaponry room, armory room that I had all these medieval weapons and armor up on the wall and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And then I had
Oh,
a bunch of battle going on around the castle of another other people trying to break in type of art because it has all the
yeah.
creatures and beings before they went behind the veil.
Yes. Yeah, it's very strange. Like Hieronymus Bosch, his
Mm-hmm.
art with the strange beings. So
Actually,
the
one of my favorite things to do is go to the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Art, and it's this huge, amazing, vintage, like architecturally gorgeous building, but it has some of the most ancient art and artifacts.
oh, does it?
And
Oh,
they've got
wow.
my favorite thing to do is find all the mythical creatures there.
You're so lucky to have that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, on your
amazing.
doorstep. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I go there all the time with my girlfriend. It's amazing, fun.
Wow.
I'm actually gonna make a map, an interactive, maybe not interactive, but a map that has like an overlay of all the different mythical creatures and what level it's on because there's three levels in this museum.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I'm gonna make it like a scavenger hunt for people to go find them here. And I'm very lucky to have all these plants that my grandpa and these fairies and gnomes nurtured together. You know,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
get to enjoy them and continue nurturing them and add to it. It's
Oh, it's
a wonderful
fantastic.
legacy.
It is. Yeah, what a gift. That's
Yeah,
such a
and the house
gift.
and everything, like just the energy of this whole place. I always felt at home here. I always felt safe. And after so many years of not feeling safe where I lived, I really needed it.
Mm. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Claire.
And
We'll talk soon.
talk soon. I'm going to
Much
say
love.
goodbye now. Yeah, lots
Love
of
from Detroit.
yeah, love from me. I can't do that. I find that difficult to do.
Hey, we all
I'm
know
not
what
very
you
good
mean.
at things like that. Oh yeah, there you
There you go, you got it. We'll talk soon, Claire. Love you.
go. Lots of love. Bye.